Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll get back to the hearing at hand, which is on the budget. Secretary Kendall, contract adversary air has proven itself to be a cost-effective training enabler for the Air Force Weapons School and during major exercises like Red Flag. In May 2021, the commander of Air Combat Command, General Mark Kelly, wrote, and I quote, "Currently, there is a high opportunity cost to self-generated AD-air, which is the norm for fifth-gen squadrons. A pilot flying Red Air is using precious flight hours on the most expensive aircraft and yet not realizing any significant training or readiness value," end quote. So your department told us repeatedly, told me, this committee and industry, that there would be a consistent future need for these services. However, it has been clear for years that the Air Force was looking to improve the capability of these contract aircraft to better reflect the high-end fight. In response to this clear demand signal, this year industry went to 2 allied European air forces and acquired 24 F-16s, the same aircraft flown by the current organic aggressors at Nellis Air Force Base. Last month, I was pleased to learn that the Air Force had also decided to permanently base 9 F-35s at Nellis as part of the 65th Aggressor Squadron at a future unspecified date. In response to a question about this basing decision, the Air Force informed Congress on April 8th that changes to the organic aggressor fleet would not cause a decrease in the number of contracted adversary air pilots, and that there were no projected changes for any contract adversary air company. However, I was surprised to recently learn that at this point, the Air Force had already notified the Nellis adversary air contractor that their contract would not be renewed and that they would have to vacate Nellis by June 4th. The Air Force then told my staff on April 20th, 12 days after informing Congress that no changes to adversary air were planned, that they did not intend to recompete the Nellis contract and that they would transition entirely to organic adversary air beginning on June 4th. Yesterday in our meeting, General Brown, you highlighted the importance of future virtual constructive training at Nellis. And while I fully support efforts to fill these capabilities, I've been told that we are still years away from the infrastructure and the software required to take full advantage of these systems. So I think you can understand my skepticism regarding simulators when problems with the F-35 virtual environment have delayed a full rate production decision for the program by over a decade. And I'm confused how the Air Force plans to replace the 44,000 flying hours, representing 63% of adversary air requirements, that the contractor currently flies at Nellis without the existing organic F-16 fleet, especially when no date has been given for the arrival of F-35s or additional aircraft. So I think it's important to note that the organic aggressors at Nellis have 2 missions: to both fly as aggressors and to support the test and evaluation unit. What happens when test and evaluation requirements compete with training? So I'm deeply concerned that the apparent lack of cohesive adversary air plan will not only continue to lead to uncertainty for my constituents, but also hurt the readiness of our pilots while they wait until an uncertain date for this future virtual environment to be fielded or for F-35s to be delivered. So Secretary Kendall, with no additional aircraft on the ramp and a full capability simulation environment still years away, how does the Air Force intend to bridge the capability gap for adversary air at Nellis? What is the specific strategy for adversary air across Air Combat Command?
Let me start by saying that we do need adversary air. It's an important part of our training regimen. The problem we have right now is that we need 5th generation adversary air. And the current capability we have in our contract doesn't provide that. It's the reason the F-35s are being brought in. That gap exists today, and it can't be healed by extending the contract that's in place. So that's the problem we're trying to solve. We're also working. I'm sorry, Congressman.
Is that the only need that we have, is to prepare for 5th generation? Don't we have other threats that we all still have to continue to prepare for?
It is not the
rest-
only need,
rest
but
of
it
this
is a
conversation will have
key
to be
need.
on the
I'll let
record. The
General
gentleman-
Brown.
I'm sorry, the gentleman's
amplify.
time has expired, Mr. Secretary, I apologize. So the question goes on that long, runs out of time, so you have to submit it for the record.